After a wine-fueled night of heartbreak, struggling gallery owner Amani Jackson snaps a daring photo meant to remind her ex what he's missing, but sends it to the wrong number. The next morning, a dangerous Korean mafia boss shows up at her door claiming she invited him to claim what's his and offers her a deal she can't refuse: pose as his fiancée for 2 weeks to help him evade his enemies, and he'll clear all her debts and make her ex disappear. What starts as a fake engagement for survival becomes devastatingly real when bullets start flying, rivals start circling, and Amani realizes the most dangerous thing isn't the price on her head. It's falling for a man whose world could destroy everything she's built, including her heart. Before we dive into the story, if you love shocking twists, intense drama, and stories that keep you glued till the end, hit the subscribe button now. You don't want to miss what's coming next. Back to the story. Amani's thumb hovered over the send button, the phone screen glowing blue in the darkness of her studio apartment. The photo stared back at her, her body draped in emerald lace, one hand on her hip, eyes half-lidded in what she hoped looked like confidence rather than the 3 glasses of Merlot currently warming her blood. The caption read, "Come and claim what's yours," and she felt simultaneously powerful and pathetic. Marcus didn't deserve this. Marcus didn't deserve anything from her except maybe a restraining order and a bill for the emotional labor she'd wasted on his lying ass. But here she was at 2 in the morning, trying to remind him of what he'd thrown away when he decided that Instagram model was worth more than 4 years together. She hit send before she could stop herself, watched the message whoosh away into the digital void, then dropped the phone on her nightstand like it had burned her. The room spun gently. She closed her eyes and let sleep drag her under, telling herself she'd feel victorious in the morning. She did not feel victorious in the morning. Amani woke to sunlight stabbing through her curtains and a headache that felt like someone was using her skull as a drum set. Her mouth tasted like regret and cheap wine. She groaned, reaching blindly for her phone to silence whatever god-awful noise was happening, then realized the noise wasn't her alarm. Someone was pounding on the gallery door downstairs. "Go away," she mumbled into her pillow, though there was no way anyone could hear her from the street level. The pounding continued, patient and insistent. She dragged herself out of bed, catching sight of herself in the mirror and wincing. Her bonnet had slipped off sometime during the night, leaving her edges a disaster. The emerald lace set was still on, which meant she'd passed out before even making it to her pajamas. Classy. Real classy, Amani. The pounding came again, harder this time. "Jesus Christ, I'm coming." She grabbed her silk robe from the hook on the bathroom door, wrapping it around herself as she stumbled down the narrow stairs that led from her apartment to the gallery below. Her gallery. Her beautiful, failing, money-hemorrhaging gallery that was supposed to have been her dream and instead had become her very expensive mistake. Through the frosted glass of the front door, she could make out a dark silhouette. Too tall to be Marcus. Too broad. For a moment, panic flared in her chest. Chicago wasn't the safest neighborhood at 8 in the morning, and she was alone, hungover, and definitely not prepared for whatever this was. "We're closed," she called out, her voice still scratchy from sleep. "Come back at noon. Miss Jackson." The voice that came through the door was deep, accented, and entirely unfamiliar. "Please open the door." It wasn't a request, not really. There was something in the tone that made her hand move to the deadbolt before her brain caught up. She cracked the door open, keeping the chain lock engaged, and peered through the gap. The man standing on her doorstep was not Marcus. He was not anyone she'd ever seen before. He was Korean, she thought, though she'd never been great at placing East Asian ethnicities. Tall, maybe 6 feet, with sharp features that looked like they'd been carved from marble. His hair was black and perfectly styled, swept back from his forehead. He wore a suit that probably cost more than her rent, charcoal gray with subtle pinstripes, and the kind of fit that said bespoke, not off the rack. Behind him stood 2 other men, also in suits, also radiating the kind of controlled menace that made her throat go dry. Security. Bodyguards. Whatever they were, they weren't here to buy art. "Can I help you?" Amani managed, her fingers tightening on the doorframe. The man held up a phone. Her stomach dropped somewhere around her knees. "You asked me to claim what is mine," he said, his English heavily accented but precise. "I am here." For a moment, her brain simply refused to process what she was seeing. That was her photo on his screen. Her body, her face, her stupid wine-drunk attempt at revenge. But that text had gone to Marcus. She'd sent it to Marcus. She'd triple-checked the contact before sending. Hadn't she? "I think there's been a mistake," she said, her voice coming out higher than she'd intended. "That wasn't meant for you. Perhaps." He tilted his head slightly, studying her through the crack in the door like she was a painting he was considering purchasing. "But you did send it. And I am not a man who ignores such invitations. I don't even know who you are." "No, you do not." Something that might have been amusement flickered across his face, there and gone so quickly she almost missed it. "My name is Kang Tae-gun, and I would very much like to come inside and discuss this properly. Unless you would prefer to have this conversation on the street." As if on cue, a couple walking their dog slowed down to gawk at the scene. The two bodyguards shifted slightly, their body language making it clear that lingering was not advisable. The couple hurried on. Amani's mind raced. This was insane. This man was a stranger who had somehow received her photo and then tracked down her address and showed up at her door like this was a normal thing to do. Every instinct screamed at her to slam the door, call the police, maybe invest in a better security system. But there was something in his eyes when he looked at her. Not threat, exactly. Interest. The kind of focused attention that made her aware of her breathing, of the silk robe against her skin, of the fact that she was still wearing the emerald lace underneath, and he knew it. 5 minutes, she heard herself say. "You get 5 minutes to explain what the hell is going on, and then you leave." She closed the door, slid the chain free, and opened it again. Kang Tae-gun stepped inside with the grace of someone who was accustomed to entering spaces like he owned them. His bodyguards moved to follow, but he held up a hand without looking back. "Wait outside," he said in Korean. At least, Amani assumed it was Korean. The language sounded sharp and efficient. The men didn't argue. The door closed behind him with a soft click, and suddenly Amani was alone in her gallery with a strange man who looked like he'd stepped out of a crime drama and somehow had her half-naked photo on his phone. She crossed her arms over her chest, trying to project a confidence she absolutely did not feel. "Start talking." Tae-gun didn't answer immediately. Instead, he turned slowly, taking in the gallery space with the same focused attention he'd given her. His gaze moved over the paintings on the walls, the sculptures on their pedestals, the installation piece in the corner that hadn't sold despite being featured in 2 local art magazines. She watched him look at her world and tried not to feel exposed all over again. "You're an artist?" he asked finally. "Gallery owner. Curator. The artists are other people. But you have the eye." He stopped in front of a canvas, a large abstract piece in blues and blacks that the artist had titled, "Drowning in Air." "You choose what deserves to be seen. That is its own art." Amani blinked. That was not what she'd expected him to say. "Your 5 minutes are ticking." He turned back to face her, and the intensity of his focus made her want to step back. She held her ground. "Last night, at 2:47 in the morning, I received a photograph," he said. "A beautiful woman in green lace, with a message that suggested she wanted me to come to her. I found this interesting because my number is not widely known. In fact, it is known to perhaps 20 people in this country, and none of them are beautiful women who send such photographs. Like I said, it was a mistake. I was trying to text my ex-boyfriend. And instead you texted me." His mouth curved slightly. It wasn't quite a smile. "How did you get my number, Ms. Jackson?" "I didn't get your number. I just hit the wrong contact. It was an accident." "An accident." He said the word like he was tasting it, testing its weight. "I do not believe in accidents. Not coincidences. Not fate. But I do believe in opportunities." The headache was getting worse. Amani pressed her fingers to her temple, trying to think through the wine fog, still clouding her brain. "Okay, look. I'm sorry you got a random photo from a stranger. That must have been weird. But I'm asking you nicely to delete it and forget this ever happened. We're good. No harm, no foul. Delete it." He looked down at his phone, then back at her. No, I do not think I will do that. Excuse me? You are in trouble, Miss Jackson. He slid the phone back into his pocket, his expression unreadable. Your gallery is failing. You owe 3 months of back rent. Your distributor is threatening to pull your remaining inventory if you do not settle your account by the end of this week. Your ex-boyfriend has been calling you 17 times per day, and yesterday he showed up here and made a scene that frightened away 2 potential clients. Amani's blood went cold. How do you know all that? I know many things. It is my business to know things. He took a step closer, and she did step back this time, her shoulders hitting the wall behind her. He stopped immediately, giving her space, but his eyes never left hers. I am going to make you an offer, and I suggest you listen very carefully before you refuse. I'm not interested in offers from men who show up at my door uninvited. Not even if the offer solves all of your problems? She laughed, sharp and bitter. Right. Let me guess. You're going to pay off all my debts out of the goodness of your heart. What's the catch? What do you want? You. The word hung in the air between them. For 2 weeks. Amani's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. I'm not a prostitute. I am not asking you to be. His voice remained calm, almost conversational, like they were discussing the weather instead of whatever insane proposition he was building toward. I need someone to pose as my fiancé. You need money and protection. We can help each other. Fiancé. She stared at him. You're actually insane. I am many things, Miss Jackson. Insane is not one of them. He glanced at his watch, an elegant silver piece that probably cost more than her car. I have a business dinner tonight. High society, old money, the kind of people who trust nothing and suspect everything. I need to appear stable, domestic, harmless. A man in love is not a man they need to fear. Why would you need people not to fear you? Wait. She held up a hand. Don't answer that. I don't want to know. Wise. That almost smile again. 2 weeks. You will attend events with me. Smile. Laugh at my jokes. Convince the world that you are desperately in love with me. In exchange, I will clear every debt you have. The gallery, the rent, all of it. I will also make certain your ex-boyfriend understands that you are under my protection and that contacting you again would be inadvisable for his health. It was tempting. God, it was so tempting. The thought of Marcus finally leaving her alone, of not waking up to threatening emails from her landlord, of being able to focus on the gallery instead of drowning in anxiety about money. But this man was dangerous. Everything about him screamed danger, from the bodyguards outside to the way he'd somehow obtained detailed information about her life in less than 12 hours. No, she said. Absolutely not. Think about it. I don't need to think about it. I don't know you. I don't trust you. And I'm definitely not going to pretend to be engaged to you for 2 weeks just because you showed up here with some spy-level knowledge of my personal problems. Tae-gun studied her for a long moment, then nodded once. Very well. I respect your decision. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card, holding it out to her. When you change your mind, call this number. I'm not going to change my mind. We will see. He moved past her toward the door, then paused with his hand on the handle. The dinner is at 8. The Peninsula Hotel, Imperial Ballroom. If you decide to attend, wear something elegant. I will have a dress sent to you, just in case. I'm not coming. He opened the door, and the morning light spilled in around him. Your 5 minutes are up, Miss Jackson. Thank you for your time. Then he was gone, his bodyguards falling into step behind him as he walked to a black Mercedes parked at the curb. Amani stood in the doorway and watched them drive away, her mind spinning. She looked down at the card in her hand. Heavy stock, expensive. Just a phone number, nothing else. No name, no business, no address. Her phone buzzed in the pocket of her robe. She pulled it out and stared at the screen, her stomach sinking. Marcus. Babe, we need to talk. I made a mistake. I miss you. Please answer. Followed by 6 more texts in the same vein, each more desperate than the last. She looked at the business card again. Then at her phone. Then at her gallery, at the paintings that deserved to be seen, at the dream she'd poured everything into and was slowly watching die. Damn it, she whispered. By noon, she still hadn't called. By 3, she'd convinced herself she'd made the right decision. By 5, Marcus showed up at the gallery again, pressing his face against the glass and calling her name until Mrs. Chun from the bubble tea shop next door threatened to call the police. By 6, Amani was standing in her apartment staring at the garment bag that had been delivered to her door an hour ago. She hadn't ordered anything. She didn't need to open it to know who it was from. She unzipped the bag slowly, her hands shaking. The dress was midnight blue, silk, with a neckline that would show just enough to be interesting and a hem that would fall to her ankles. It was gorgeous. It was exactly her size. There were shoes too, elegant heels in the same shade, and a small box that contained a simple diamond necklace. He'd been confident she'd say yes. Or maybe he'd just been prepared for either outcome. That seemed more likely. Amani picked up her phone and stared at the business card propped against her mirror. 2 weeks. She could survive 2 weeks of anything. And if it meant Marcus would finally leave her alone, if it meant saving the gallery, if it meant she could breathe without feeling like she was drowning. She dialed the number before she could talk herself out of it. He answered on the first ring. Miss Jackson. The dress is beautiful, she said. But I need you to understand something. This is business. Strictly business. We're not dating. We're not actually engaged. And after 2 weeks, we're done. You pay what you promised, and we never see each other again. Agreed. I'm serious. No funny business. No trying to make this into something it's not. Of course. His voice was perfectly neutral, but she thought she detected something underneath. Amusement, maybe. Or satisfaction. The car will pick you up at 7:30. I can drive myself. You can. But you will not. It wasn't a suggestion. 7:30, Ms. Jackson. Do not be late. He hung up before she could argue. Amani stared at her reflection in the mirror, at the expensive dress hanging behind her, at the woman who'd somehow agreed to fake date a dangerous stranger because she'd drunk texted the wrong number. What are you doing? She asked her reflection. Her reflection, wisely, didn't answer. The car arrived at 7:30 exactly. Amani had spent the last hour doing her makeup with shaking hands and trying to talk herself out of the decision she'd already made. The dress fit perfectly, hugging her curves in ways that made her feel both powerful and vulnerable. She'd twisted her hair into an elegant updo, leaving a few curls loose to frame her face. The diamond necklace caught the light when she moved. She looked good. She looked expensive. She looked like the kind of woman who might actually be engaged to a man like Kang Tae-gun. The thought made her stomach flip. The driver was one of the bodyguards from this morning. He held the door open for her without speaking, his face professionally blank. Amani slid into the back seat and tried not to feel like she was making a terrible mistake. Tae-gun was already in the car, sitting on the opposite seat, wearing a different suit than this morning. This one was black, the shirt underneath a crisp white that made his skin look like cream. He looked up from his phone as she entered, and his eyes tracked over her slowly, taking in every detail. You look beautiful, he said finally. Thank you. She smoothed the dress over her thighs, suddenly self-conscious. You look nice too. Nice. His mouth twitched. I will accept that. The driver closed the door and got behind the wheel. The car pulled away from the curb smoothly, heading north toward the hotel district. So, Amani said, because the silence was making her nervous. Are you going to tell me anything about this dinner? Who these people are? What I'm supposed to say? Say as little as possible, Tae-gun replied. Smile. Look at me like you cannot believe your good fortune. Laugh when others laugh. If anyone asks about our relationship, tell them we met at a gallery opening. You were showing the work of a new artist. I was there for the wine but stayed for you. We have been together for 6 months. 6 months. That's specific. Specific details make the lie more convincing. He set his phone aside and gave her his full attention. These people tonight, they are dangerous. Not in the way you might think. They will not threaten you with guns or violence. They will smile and shake your hand and invite you to brunch. But they're always watching. Always calculating. Looking for weakness. And I'm supposed to make you look not weak. You are supposed to make me look human. He said it simply, like it was obvious. They know what I am. What I do. But a man who is engaged, a man who is planning a future, a man who has something to lose, that man is predictable. Safe. And right now, I need them to believe I am safe. Amani wanted to ask what he meant by what I do, but she suspected she already knew. Or at least, she knew enough to know that ignorance might be safer than knowledge. What if they ask about my family? My background? Tell them the truth. You are an artist and curator. Your parents were both professors. Your father taught African American studies at Northwestern. Your mother was a biologist. You graduated from the School of the Art Institute. You opened your gallery 3 years ago. He paused. You do not need to tell them it is failing. How do you know all of that? The question came out sharper than she'd intended. Seriously. Did you have someone investigate me? Yes. At least he was honest. That's creepy. That is practical. He leaned back in his seat, his expression unreadable. I do not make agreements with people I know nothing about. You could have been anyone. A journalist. A police informant. Someone sent by my enemies. I needed to know who you were before I made my offer. And what did your investigation tell you? That you are stubborn. That you take risks others would not take. That you care deeply about art and beauty and giving voice to people who are not often heard. That you are drowning in debt because you gave too much credit to too many artists who could not pay you back. His gaze held hers. That you are loyal to the point of foolishness. That your ex-boyfriend hurt you badly, but you still took his calls. That you would rather fail with your integrity intact than succeed by compromising your values. Amani swallowed hard. You got all that from a background check? I got that from watching you this morning. The background check just confirmed it. He tilted his head slightly. You let me into your gallery even though every instinct told you not to. Because you wanted answers. Because you were curious. Because you hope, even when hoping is dangerous. She didn't know what to say to that. The car turned onto North Michigan Avenue, and the city lights streamed past the windows. They were almost at the hotel. One more thing, Tae-gun said, reaching into his jacket pocket. You will need this. He pulled out a small velvet box and held it out to her. Amani's mouth went dry. Please tell me that's not what I think it is. Open it. She took the box with trembling fingers and lifted the lid. The ring inside was stunning. A simple platinum band with a single diamond, emerald cut, maybe 2 carats. It caught the light and threw rainbows across the car's interior. I can't wear this, she whispered. You must. An engagement without a ring would raise questions. This probably costs more than my entire gallery. Yes. He took the box from her hands and removed the ring, then reached for her left hand. His fingers were warm, his touch surprisingly gentle. It costs significantly more, actually. What if I lose it? Then I will buy another. He slid the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly. Of course it did. He'd probably had someone measure her finger while she was sleeping or something equally invasive. There. Now you look like a woman who is about to become Mrs. Kang. I'm not changing my name. I would not expect you to. He released her hand but didn't move back, leaving them sitting close enough that she could smell his cologne. Something subtle and expensive. Cedar, maybe, and something else she couldn't identify. Are you ready? No. Good. Neither am I. He smiled then, really smiled, and it transformed his face completely. He looked younger. Less dangerous. Almost playful. That will make this interesting. The car pulled up in front of the Peninsula Hotel, and immediately a valet was opening Amani's door. Tae-gun exited from his side and came around to offer her his hand. She took it and let him help her out, and the cameras started flashing immediately. There were paparazzi. Actual paparazzi, with professional cameras and press badges, all calling out questions in a language she didn't understand. Tae-gun's hand tightened on hers, and he said something in Korean that made the photographers laugh. Then he was leading her into the hotel, his hand moving to the small of her back, and she felt the heat of his palm through the silk of her dress. The Imperial Ballroom was on the 2nd floor, and they took the elevator in silence. Amani watched the numbers climb and tried to slow her breathing. This was fine. This was just dinner. She'd been to fancy events before. She could do this. The elevator doors opened, and Tae-gun leaned close to murmur in her ear. Remember. You are madly in love with me. Try to look like it. Then they stepped into the ballroom, and Amani realized she might have severely underestimated what she'd agreed to. The ballroom was full of people who looked like they'd never worried about money a day in their lives. Women in gowns that probably cost more than Amani's car, dripping in jewels that could have paid off her gallery debt 3 times over. Men in perfectly tailored suits, talking in clusters with drinks in their hands and expressions of polite boredom. The chandeliers overhead threw golden light over everything, making the whole scene look like a Renaissance painting. Amani had been to gallery openings. She'd schmoozed with Chicago's art collectors, its wealthy patrons, the people who decided what was worth buying and what would languish in storage. But this was different. This wasn't her world, and everyone in the room could tell. She felt the eyes on them immediately. Conversations paused. Heads turned. A black woman in a blue dress walking into this space on the arm of Kang Tae-gun was apparently noteworthy enough to stop traffic. Ignore them, Tae-gun murmured, his lips close enough to her ear that anyone watching would think he was whispering sweet nothings. They are just surprised. It will pass. Because you don't usually bring dates to these things? Because I do not usually bring anyone to these things. His hand stayed on her back, steady and warm. And certainly not anyone who looks like you. She wanted to ask what he meant by that, but a woman was approaching them. Older, maybe 60, with sharp eyes and a sharper smile. Her dress was ivory silk, and diamonds glittered at her throat. Mr. Kang, the woman said, her English accented with what Amani thought might be Mandarin. How lovely to see you. Mrs. Liu. Tae-gun inclined his head slightly. May I introduce my fiancée, Amani Jackson? Amani, this is Mrs. Liu. Her husband owns half of the shipping ports on the West Coast. Only the profitable half, Mrs. Liu said and laughed. She extended her hand to Amani, and her grip was surprisingly strong. It is a pleasure to meet you, Miss Jackson. You are the first woman Mr. Kang has ever brought to one of our gatherings. I was beginning to think he was married to his work. He is, Amani said, and felt Tae-gun's hand twitch against her back. But I'm much better company than his spreadsheets. Mrs. Liu laughed again, delighted. I like her. Mr. Kang, you have chosen well. Tell me, my dear, how did you meet this difficult man? Amani launched into the story they'd rehearsed. Gallery opening. New artist. Wine and conversation. She embellished a little, adding details about how Tae-gun had stood in front of a painting for 20 minutes without speaking, and how she'd finally had to ask if he was all right or if he'd fallen asleep with his eyes open. Mrs. Liu seemed charmed. Tae-gun's expression remained neutral, but she felt his thumb stroke once across her back, and somehow she knew he was pleased. More people approached. Business associates of Tae-gun's, their wives or husbands, colleagues and competitors and allies. Amani smiled until her face hurt, laughed at jokes she didn't fully understand, and tried not to think about the fact that she was surrounded by people who probably did things that would horrify her if she knew the details. Throughout it all, Tae-gun stayed close. His hand never left her back or her arm. When someone asked a question she couldn't answer, he stepped in smoothly, redirecting the conversation. When a waiter passed with champagne, he took 2 glasses and handed her one without being asked. It was like they'd been doing this for years instead of hours. The strange thing was how easy it felt. How natural. Amani had expected to feel out of place, awkward, like an actress who hadn't learned her lines. But Tae-gun made it effortless. He anticipated her needs before she voiced them. When she shifted her weight because her heels were pinching, he suggested they sit. When she looked uncomfortable with a man who was standing too close, Tae-gun moved between them so smoothly the man probably didn't even realize he'd been blocked. You are very good at this, she murmured during a rare moment when they were alone. At what? Taking care of people. Making them feel safe. She looked up at him. Is that part of what you do? In your work? No. His expression was difficult to read. In my work, I do the opposite. I make people understand they are not safe. That safety is a privilege that can be revoked at any moment. A chill ran down her spine. That's a terrifying thing to say. You asked. Dinner was announced, and they were shown to a table near the front of the room. Tae-gun held her chair for her, then took the seat beside her rather than across from her. Close enough that their shoulders almost touched. Close enough that she could feel the heat of him beside her. The food was incredible. 7 courses, each more elaborate than the last. Amani tried to pace herself, aware that she was being watched by multiple people who were probably evaluating everything from her table manners to the way she held her fork. Tae-gun ate methodically, occasionally leaning over to explain what a dish was or to offer her a taste of something from his plate. "Try this," he said, holding out his fork with a piece of what looked like perfectly seared fish. "It is hamachi. Yellowtail." Amani hesitated, then leaned forward and let him feed her. The fish was buttery and rich, practically melting on her tongue. "Oh my God. That's amazing. You have not had much Japanese food?" "Not like this. There's a sushi place near my apartment, but I usually get the California roll because I'm boring." "You are not boring." He said it with such certainty that she almost believed him. "You are cautious. There is a difference." "Is there?" She took a sip of wine, aware that the woman across from them was watching their interaction with undisguised interest. "Because from where I'm sitting, cautious just means scared to try new things. Being scared is not a weakness. It means you understand risk. It means you value what you could lose." His eyes held hers. "Only fools are never afraid. Are you afraid of anything?" "Yes." He didn't elaborate, and she didn't push. Some answers, she was learning, were better left unspoken. Between courses, people came by their table to offer congratulations on their engagement. Each time, Amani felt Tae-gun's hand find hers under the table, his fingers lacing through hers like an anchor. He played the part of devoted fiancé flawlessly. The way he looked at her made her heart skip, even though she knew it was all an act. The soft smiles. The lingering glances. The way he listened when she spoke like she was the only person in the room. It should have felt fake. It should have felt like a performance. But there were moments when she forgot they were pretending. When his thumb stroked over her knuckles and she felt warmth bloom in her chest. When he leaned close to whisper a translation of something someone had said in Korean and his breath ghosted against her ear. When he laughed at something she said, a genuine surprised laugh that made his whole face light up. This was dangerous. This was exactly what she'd told him wouldn't happen. But God, it felt good to be looked at like this. To be treasured, even if it was just pretend. After dinner, there was dancing. A live band had set up at one end of the ballroom, playing smooth jazz that made Amani think of old movies and romance she'd thought only existed in fiction. Couples drifted to the dance floor, and Tae-gun stood and offered her his hand. "I should warn you," she said as he led her onto the floor. "I'm not a great dancer." "Then it is fortunate that I am." He pulled her close, one hand on her waist, the other holding hers. "Follow my lead." She did. It was easier than she'd expected, letting him guide her through the steps. He moved with the same controlled grace he brought to everything else, confident and assured. Amani tried to focus on her feet, on not stepping on his expensive shoes, but it was hard to concentrate with his hand warm against her back and his body so close to hers. "You are thinking too much," he said softly. "I'm trying not to embarrass you." "You could not embarrass me." He pulled her a fraction closer. "Do you know what they are saying about you?" "I'm afraid to ask." "They are saying I am very lucky. That you are beautiful and intelligent and far too good for someone like me." His mouth curved slightly. "They're not wrong. You don't really believe that." "I believe exactly that." His eyes met hers, and there was something in them she couldn't read. Something that made her breath catch. "You are good, Amani. Truly good. And I am not. But for 2 weeks, I get to pretend that someone like you could love someone like me. That is a gift I do not take lightly." She should have said something flippant. Something to remind them both that this was fake, that she was here for the money and the protection and nothing else. But the words stuck in her throat, and instead she just moved closer, letting her head rest against his shoulder. They swayed together in silence, and Amani tried not to think about how right this felt. How perfectly she fit against him. How much she wanted to stay in this moment, in this bubble where reality couldn't touch them. The song ended, and another began. They stayed on the dance floor through 3 more songs before Tae-gun finally led her back to their table. A man was waiting for them there, tall and lean with silver hair and a face that looked like it had been weathered by years of difficult decisions. "Mr. Kang," the man said, his English precise and unaccented. "A word, please." Tae-gun's entire demeanor changed. The soft, attentive fiancé vanished, replaced by something harder. Colder. "Mr. Zhao." "Of course." "In private." The man's eyes flicked to Amani, dismissive. "This is business. Anything you need to say to me can be said in front of my fiancé." Tae-gun's voice was pleasant, but there was steel underneath. Mr. Zhao's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Very well. I heard an interesting rumor recently. About a shipment that went missing. A shipment that was supposed to be under your protection. Rumors are rarely interesting and even more rarely true. This one seems to be both." Mr. Zhao leaned back in his chair, casual but watchful. $20 million in merchandise. Gone. Your people are saying it was my people. My people are saying it was yours. Someone is lying. Perhaps everyone is telling the truth as they understand it. Tae-gun's expression remained neutral. Perhaps the shipment was taken by a third party who would benefit from us blaming each other. Perhaps. Mr. Zhao's gaze moved to Amani again, lingering this time. Or perhaps you have been distracted. Too busy playing house to pay attention to business. Amani felt Tae-gun's hand tighten on the back of her chair. The temperature in the immediate area seemed to drop about 10 degrees. "Careful," Tae-gun said softly. "You are speaking about my future wife. I am speaking about your priorities." Mr. Zhao stood, buttoning his jacket. "Find my shipment, Mr. Kang. Or our arrangement is finished. You have 1 week." He walked away without waiting for a response. Amani watched him go, her heart pounding. "What arrangement?" she asked quietly. "Nothing you need to worry about. Tae-gun." She turned to look at him. "What have I gotten myself into?" He met her eyes, and for the first time since she'd met him, she saw something like regret in his expression. "Something you should not have. I am sorry. We should leave." "Yes." He stood and offered her his hand. "Come. I will take you home." They said their goodbyes quickly, Tae-gun making excuses about an early meeting in the morning. The paparazzi were gone when they exited the hotel, and the car was waiting at the curb. They slid into the back seat in silence. Amani could feel the tension radiating off Tae-gun. His jaw was tight, his hands clenched into fists on his thighs. She wanted to ask what Mr. Zhao had meant, what kind of trouble he was in, but she was afraid of the answer. "I will have someone watch your gallery," he said finally, his voice flat. "And your apartment. In case Zhao decides to make this personal." "Wait. You think he'd come after me?" "I do not know. But I will not take the risk." He pulled out his phone and sent a rapid series of texts. "You will be safe. I promise you that. Maybe we should just call this off. Tell people we broke up. I can return the ring and we can." "No." The word came out sharp. He looked at her, and there was something fierce in his eyes. "You are under my protection now. That does not end just because things become complicated. I'm not your responsibility. You became my responsibility the moment you sent me that photograph. The moment I decided to track you down and make you an offer you should have refused." He reached over and took her hand, his grip almost painful. "I will not let anyone hurt you. Do you understand me?" Amani nodded, not trusting her voice. They drove the rest of the way in silence. When the car pulled up in front of her building, Tae-gun got out with her, ignoring her protests. "I am walking you to your door," he said. "Do not argue." She didn't. They climbed the stairs to her apartment, and she unlocked the door with shaking hands. Tae-gun stepped inside first, checking the space like he expected to find someone hiding in the shadows. "All clear," he said finally. "Lock the door behind me. Do not open it for anyone except my people. I will send you photographs so you know who to expect." "Okay." He moved toward the door, then stopped. Turned back. "You did well tonight. Better than I expected." "Thanks." "I think." It was a compliment. He hesitated, and for a moment he looked like he wanted to say something else. Then he just shook his head and reached for the door handle. "Good night, Amani." "Good night." He left, and she locked the door behind him, engaging all 3 deadbolts. Then she leaned against it and let out a shaky breath. The ring on her finger caught the light. 2 carats of diamond and a lie that felt more real with every passing hour. She was in so much trouble. Amani didn't sleep well. She kept waking up, convinced she'd heard something, only to find her apartment empty and silent. Around 3 in the morning, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Jean. I am outside your building. You're safe." Attached was a photo of a man who looked like he could bench press a car, standing next to the black Mercedes from earlier. She sent back a thumbs-up emoji because she didn't know what else to say. When she finally dragged herself out of bed at 9, there were 17 new emails waiting for her. 15 were from Marcus, each more desperate than the last. One was from her landlord, asking about next month's rent. The last was from Tae-gun. "Your debts have been cleared. You should receive confirmation from your creditors by end of business today. I will collect you at 7 this evening. We have another event. Wear something red. TG." Amani stared at the email for a long moment. He'd actually done it. Paid off her debts like it was nothing, like she hadn't spent months drowning in anxiety over money she couldn't pay back. She opened her banking app with shaking hands and nearly dropped her phone when she saw the balance. $50,000. He'd deposited $50,000 into her account. Her phone rang, and she answered without checking the caller ID. "Did you hack my bank account?" she demanded. Tae-gun's laugh was low and warm. "Good morning to you too. How did you get my account information?" "The same way I got everything else. I am very thorough." He sounded amused. "The money is for expenses. Anything you need. Consider it a signing bonus." "I can't accept this. This is too much." "You can and you will. I do not make offers I cannot afford, Amani. Buy yourself something nice. Take your mother to lunch. Do whatever you wish with it. It is yours." She sat down heavily on her couch, still staring at the number on her screen. "My mother is dead." Silence on the other end of the line. Then, quietly, "I am sorry. I did not know. It was 3 years ago. Cancer." She didn't know why she was telling him this. "My dad went 6 months later. Heart attack, officially. But I think he just couldn't live without her. That is a rare kind of love." "Yeah." She wiped at her eyes, annoyed to find them wet. "They were together 40 years. High school sweethearts. My dad used to say my mom was the only woman who could win an argument with him without saying a word. She'd just look at him, and he'd know he'd messed up. You miss them. Every day." She took a shaky breath. "I keep thinking about what they'd say if they could see me now. Fake engaged to a man I just met, wearing a ring that costs more than their house did. They'd think I'd lost my mind. Perhaps they would understand better than you think. Sometimes we do impossible things to protect what matters to us." His voice was gentle. "You are trying to save your dream. There is no shame in that. Even if I'm lying to do it? Everyone lies, Amani. The only difference is what we lie about and why. You are lying to save something beautiful. I am lying to survive. Which of us is worse?" She didn't have an answer for that. 7 o'clock, he said. "Red dress. I will see you tonight." He hung up before she could argue. Amani spent the day at the gallery, trying to catch up on work she'd been neglecting while drowning in debt-induced panic. Around 2, a delivery arrived. Another garment bag, this one containing a red dress that made the blue one from last night look conservative. It was all silk and strategic cutouts, the kind of dress that demanded confidence and excellent posture. There was a note pinned to the hanger. "For tonight. I think you will like where we are going. TG." She didn't want to like the dress. She didn't want to like any of this. But God, the dress was gorgeous, and when she tried it on in the gallery bathroom, she had to admit it looked incredible on her. The red complemented her skin tone perfectly, and the cut made her look like some kind of goddess. Her phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. "Marcus Johnson attempted to enter your building 20 minutes ago. He was discouraged. He will not try again." Amani didn't want to know what discouraged meant in this context. At 6:30, she closed the gallery and went upstairs to get ready. The red dress. The heels that matched. Her hair in loose curls this time, cascading over one shoulder. The diamond ring that was starting to feel less foreign on her finger. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. This wasn't Amani Jackson, struggling gallery owner. This was someone else. Someone confident and powerful and maybe a little dangerous. The car arrived at 7 exactly. This time, Tae-gun was waiting outside her building, leaning against the Mercedes in a black suit that should have been illegal. He straightened when he saw her, and the look on his face made her forget how to breathe. "You wore red," he said. "You told me to. I did not think you would listen." He moved toward her, closing the distance between them in 3 long strides. "You look devastating. Is that a compliment?" "Yes." He reached out and tucked a curl behind her ear, his fingers lingering against her cheek. "You will ruin me, Amani Jackson. I thought I was supposed to make you look good." "You do. Too good. That is the problem." His hand dropped, but his eyes stayed on her face. "Are you ready? Where are we going?" "The Art Institute. There is a private showing tonight. New acquisitions from Korea. I thought you might enjoy it." She blinked. Of all the things she'd expected him to say, that wasn't it. "You're taking me to an art museum? I am taking my fiancé to see art." "Is that so strange?" "A little bit, yeah." He smiled and opened the car door for her. "Then tonight will be full of surprises." The Art Institute after hours was a different world. Without the crowds of tourists and school groups, the galleries felt sacred. Hushed. Their footsteps echoed on the marble floors as Tae-gun led her through the main hall toward the new wing where the private showing was being held. There were maybe 30 people in attendance. Amani recognized a few faces from last night's dinner, but most were strangers. A man in a gray suit greeted them at the entrance, speaking to Tae-gun in rapid Korean. Tae-gun responded in kind, then turned to her. "He says we are just in time. The curator is about to begin the tour." They joined the group, and Amani found herself genuinely interested for the first time since this whole thing had started. The collection was breathtaking. Joseon Dynasty ceramics, contemporary paintings by artists she'd only read about, a series of photographs that made her throat tight. She didn't notice when Tae-gun's hand found the small of her back. Didn't register when he leaned close to translate something the curator was saying. She was too busy studying a painting of a woman in traditional hanbok, her face tilted toward a window, light falling across her features in a way that made Amani think of Vermeer. "Beautiful, is it not?" Tae-gun's voice was soft in her ear. "It's incredible. The way he captured the light. The stillness of her." She stepped closer to the painting, reading the placard. "Waiting for spring." God, that title. You can feel her longing. Can you? Look at her hands. The way she's gripping the window frame. She's trying to hold on to something, but you can tell she knows it's already gone. Amani tilted her head, studying the brushwork. "This is the kind of piece I'd love to show in my gallery. Something that makes you feel something real." "Then you should." She laughed. "Right. I'm sure this artist is dying to show in my tiny gallery in Chicago instead of a museum. Not this artist. But there are others. Young Korean artists who need someone to believe in them. Someone with vision." He moved to stand beside her, his shoulder brushing hers. "I could make introductions." "Why would you do that?" "Because you were right yesterday. You have the eye. You know what deserves to be seen." He glanced at her, his expression serious. "And because I like the way you look at art. Like it matters. Like it is not just decoration or investment. Like it is necessary." Amani's chest felt tight. It is necessary. Art is how we make sense of being human. How we connect with each other across time and distance and difference. Without it, we're just animals surviving. With it, we're people living. "Yes." He said it softly, like she'd just confirmed something he'd suspected. "Exactly that." They stood together in silence, looking at the painting of the waiting woman. Around them, the tour group moved to the next piece, but neither of them followed. "My mother loved art," Tae-gun said finally. She wanted to be a painter. But her family was traditional. They did not believe women should waste time on such things. So she married my father and had children and never touched a brush again. "That's heartbreaking." "Yes, it was." His jaw tightened. "She died when I was 17. Cancer, like your mother." At the end, when the pain was very bad, she asked me to promise her something. "What?" "That I would never give up something I loved because someone else told me it was impractical. That I would choose passion over duty, even once." He looked at her then, and his eyes were full of something that looked like grief. I have not kept that promise. Not until now. What do you mean? I mean this. You. The 2 weeks we have together. I am choosing to be here with you instead of handling business that cannot wait. I am choosing to pretend I am a man who could have a future with someone like you. I am choosing beauty over violence, even if only temporarily. His hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing across her cheekbone. That is what I mean. Amani couldn't breathe. The gallery felt too small suddenly, the air too thin. She should step back. Should remind him that this was fake, that she was being paid to be here, that whatever was happening between them couldn't be real. But she didn't move. She just stood there, looking up at him, and let herself want something she couldn't have. Tae-gun, she whispered. I know. His thumb traced her lower lip, featherlight. I know this is not real. I know you are only here because I paid you to be. But for tonight, can we pretend? Just for tonight. She knew she should say no. Knew that letting this become more than business was dangerous for both of them. But he was looking at her like she was one of the paintings on the wall. Like she was art that mattered. Like she was necessary. Just for tonight, she agreed. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His lips brushed against hers, soft and questioning, and she felt the kiss all the way down to her toes. Her hands came up to grip his jacket, pulling him closer, and he made a sound low in his throat that sent heat pooling in her belly. Someone cleared their throat behind them. They broke apart to find the curator standing there, looking amused and scandalized in equal measure. Perhaps you would like a private viewing, the curator suggested in accented English. I can arrange for the gallery to be cleared. No need, Tae-gun said, not taking his eyes off Amani. We were just leaving. They were in the car before Amani found her voice again. We just walked out of a private showing. Yes. People will talk. Let them. He reached over and laced his fingers through hers. Take me to your gallery. What? Now. Now. I want to see your world. The pieces you have chosen. The artists you believe in. His grip tightened. Show me what matters to you. The gallery looked different at night. Amani had always thought so. During the day, with sunlight streaming through the windows, the space felt open and inviting. But at night, with only the track lighting illuminating the artwork, it became something else. Intimate. Almost sacred. She unlocked the door and disarmed the security system, hyper-aware of Tae-gun standing behind her. She could feel the heat of him, smell his cologne mixing with the familiar scent of paint and canvas and old wood floors. Come in, she said, stepping aside to let him enter. He moved through the space slowly, taking his time with each piece. A series of photographs by a South Side artist who documented disappearing Black-owned businesses. An installation made from recycled materials by a Nigerian immigrant who'd fled political persecution. Paintings and sculptures and mixed media pieces that most galleries wouldn't touch because they were too political, too raw, too real. Tae-gun stopped in front of a canvas that Amani had hung just last week. It showed a young black girl with her hair in 2 puffs, looking at her reflection in a store window. The reflection showed the same girl, older, wearing a graduation cap and gown. The artist had titled it Becoming. Tell me about this one, he said. Amani moved to stand beside him. The artist is Maya Thompson. She's 22, just graduated from DePaul. This is her first professional sale. She smiled at the memory. She cried when I told her I wanted to show her work. Said no one had ever believed in her art before. But you did. I did. Because look at it. Look at the hope in that little girl's eyes. The determination. Maya knows what it's like to be told you're not good enough, that your dreams are too big. She painted that knowing exactly how hard the journey is. That's what makes it powerful. Tae-gun was quiet for a long moment. You are good at this. Seeing people. Understanding what they need to say. I try. She moved to the next piece, a sculpture made from broken glass and steel wire. This one is by Andre Mills. He's been in and out of prison most of his adult life. Learned to make art in a rehabilitation program. No one wanted to show his work because of his record. But I thought people should see what he can create from broken things. How he can take something sharp and dangerous and make it beautiful. Like you were trying to do with me. He said it quietly, not looking at her. Amani turned to face him. You're not a project, Tae-gun. I'm not trying to fix you or save you or whatever you think this is. Then what are you doing? I don't know. She laughed, helpless. I'm supposed to be pretending to be your fiancé for 2 weeks, so you can look respectable and I can pay my bills. That's all this is supposed to be. But I kissed you tonight, and I wanted to. And now you're in my gallery at 11 o'clock at night, looking at art with me like this is a real date, and I don't know how to separate what's real from what's pretend anymore. He crossed the space between them in 2 steps, his hands framing her face. You want to know what is real? This is real. The way I cannot stop thinking about you. The way you make me want to be someone different. Someone better. The way I look at you and forget why I am supposed to stay distant and controlled. His forehead dropped to rest against hers. You are ruining me, Amani. And I am letting you. We only have 12 more days. I know. And then you go back to your world, and I go back to mine, and we pretend this never happened. I know that too. His thumb stroked across her cheek. But we have tonight. We have now. Can that be enough? It should have been a simple question. But Amani knew what he was really asking. Could she let herself have this, knowing it had an expiration date? Could she open herself up to someone, knowing he was going to leave? Could she survive the aftermath? She thought about her parents. 40 years together. Her father unable to live without her mother, dying of a broken heart disguised as a medical emergency. That kind of love was a gift and a curse. Beautiful and terrible. But they'd had 40 years. She and Tae-gun had 12 days. 12 days couldn't break her heart. 12 days couldn't destroy her. She was lying to herself and she knew it, but she kissed him anyway. This kiss was different from the one at the museum. That had been soft, tentative, a question. This was an answer. Her hands fisted in his jacket, pulling him closer. His arms wrapped around her waist, lifting her slightly so she had to go up on her toes to reach him. She could feel the muscles in his back through his shirt, feel his heart pounding against her chest. They broke apart only when breathing became necessary. Tae-gun rested his forehead against hers, both of them breathing hard. We should not do this, he said. Probably not. It will make everything more complicated. Definitely. I do not want to hurt you. Too late. She kissed him again, softer this time. You're going to hurt me when you leave. We both know that. But I'd rather have 12 days of something real than 2 weeks of pretending. He pulled back to look at her, his eyes searching her face. You're certain? No. But I'm doing it anyway. She took his hand and led him toward the stairs to her apartment. Come on. I'm not making out with you in my gallery where anyone could walk by and see through the windows. Her apartment was small and cluttered in the way of someone who worked too much and cleaned too little. Art books stacked on every surface. Half-finished sketches tacked to the walls. A couch that had seen better days, but was comfortable enough for the long nights when she fell asleep reading instead of making it to her bed. Tae-gun looked around with interest, taking in the details of her life. The photos of her parents on the mantel. The collection of coffee mugs from every gallery she'd ever visited. The abstract painting over her desk that she'd done herself years ago, before she'd realized she was better at appreciating art than creating it. This is very you, he said. Is that good or bad? Good. Definitely good. He turned to face her, and suddenly the apartment felt very small. Amani, if we do this, you need to understand something. My life is dangerous. The people I work with, the enemies I have made, they do not care about collateral damage. If they learn that you matter to me, they will use you against me. What happened with Zhao last night was just the beginning. I know. You told me you'd have someone watch my building. That is not enough. Not if this becomes real. He moved closer, his expression serious. I can protect you. I will protect you. But you need to be smart. No going places alone. No telling anyone about us, not your friends, not your colleagues. As far as the world knows, we are just acting. The moment anyone suspects otherwise, you become a target. That sounds exhausting. It is. It is the price of being close to me. His hand came up to cup her cheek. I am giving you a chance to walk away. To end this before it begins. I will still honor our agreement. I will still protect you from your ex-boyfriend and make sure your gallery succeeds. But we stay professional. Distant. Safe. Amani thought about it for maybe 3 seconds. I'm not walking away. You should. Probably. But I'm not. She stepped closer, closing the distance between them. I've spent 3 years playing it safe. Being careful. Making the responsible choice. And you know what? I'm exhausted. I'm tired of being afraid. I'm tired of protecting myself from everything that might hurt me. For once, just once, I want to choose something because I want it, not because it's smart or safe or sensible. Even if it destroys you? Even then. She kissed him, and this time there was no hesitation. No doubt. Just want and need and the desperate knowledge that they were running out of time before they'd even begun. Tae-gun made a sound low in his throat and kissed her back with an intensity that made her knees weak. His hands were in her hair, on her back, everywhere at once. She fumbled with the buttons of his shirt, desperate to feel skin against skin, and he helped her, shrugging out of his jacket and tossing it somewhere behind him. They made it to her bedroom in a tangle of limbs and kissing and breathless laughter when Amani tripped over a stack of art books and he had to catch her. The red dress ended up on the floor. His shirt followed. They fell onto her bed together, and Amani felt like she was drowning in the best way possible. You are beautiful, he murmured against her throat. So beautiful it hurts to look at you. You're not so bad yourself. She arched into his touch, her hands exploring the planes of his chest, the muscles of his shoulders. He had scars. She could feel them under her fingers, raised lines that told stories he probably wouldn't share. What happened here? Another time. He kissed the question away. Tonight is not for old wounds. They took their time learning each other. The sounds that made Amani gasp. The places that made Tae-gun lose his carefully controlled composure. It was tender and intense and desperate all at once, two people trying to fit weeks of wanting into a single night. After, they lay tangled together in her sheets, sweat cooling on their skin. Amani's head was on Tae-gun's chest, and she could hear his heart still racing. His fingers traced patterns on her back, idle and soothing. I have not done this in a long time, he said quietly. Had sex. Been with someone I cared about. His hand stilled. The women in my life before, they knew what I was. What I did. They were either part of that world or they wanted to be. But you're different. You're clean. Untouched by the violence and the ugliness. Being with you feels like coming up for air after drowning. Amani propped herself up on her elbow to look at him. I'm not some fantasy of innocence you get to project onto. I've got my own scars. My own mistakes. I'm just as messy as you are, just in different ways. Perhaps. But your mess does not involve people dying. The words hung in the air between them. Amani wanted to ask. Wanted to know exactly what he'd done, what sins he carried. But she was afraid the answer would change things. Would make this impossible. Tell me something true, she said instead. Something you've never told anyone else. He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, I hate what I do. I am good at it, and it has made me very wealthy and very powerful. But I hate it. The violence. The constant tension. The knowledge that I am destroying people's lives for profit. I tell myself that if I did not do it, someone else would. Someone worse. But that does not make it right. It just makes it bearable. Why don't you stop? Because stopping would mean showing weakness. And weakness in my world means death. Not just for me, but for everyone who depends on me. My people, they have families. Children. If I walk away, my enemies will see it as an opportunity. They will move against my organization, and innocent people will die. He looked at her, and there was so much pain in his eyes. So I stay. And I do terrible things. And I hope that someday I can find a way out that does not end in blood. Amani kissed him, soft and sweet. Tell me something else. Something good. When I was a boy, my mother used to take me to the Han River. We would sit on the bank and watch the boats go by, and she would make up stories about the people on them. Where they were going. What dreams they carried. She made the whole world feel magical. He smiled at the memory. I have not been back to the river since she died. I cannot bear it. Maybe someday you'll be able to. When you're ready. Maybe. His arms tightened around her. What about you? Tell me something true. Amani thought about it. I'm terrified of failing. Not just the gallery, but everything. Being an artist, a curator, it's all I ever wanted to do. My parents were so proud when I opened the gallery. My dad was there on opening night, standing in the corner with tears in his eyes. He said I was making the world more beautiful, one painting at a time. Her voice cracked. If the gallery fails, it feels like I'm failing them. Like I'm proving that their belief in me was misplaced. Your parents would be proud of you regardless. You are fighting for something you believe in. That takes courage. Or stupidity. Often the same thing. He kissed the top of her head. Stay with me tonight. Let me hold you while we sleep. I'm in my own bed. Where exactly would I go? I mean after these 2 weeks. When the agreement ends. Stay anyway. He said it softly, almost like he was afraid to voice it. I know I should not ask. I know it is selfish and dangerous and wrong. But I am asking anyway. Amani's heart was pounding. Tae-gun. You do not have to answer now. Just think about it. His hand stroked through her hair. Think about what we could have if we were brave enough to try. She wanted to say yes. Wanted it so badly it scared her. But she'd learned young that wanting something didn't make it possible. That love, no matter how real, couldn't overcome every obstacle. Let's just take this one day at a time, she said finally. We have 12 more days. Let's not ruin them by worrying about what comes after. He nodded, but she could feel the tension in his body. The fear that she was already planning her exit. That she'd take what she could from these 2 weeks and then walk away without looking back. She wanted to promise him she wouldn't. But she'd learned not to make promises she might not be able to keep. They fell asleep tangled together, and Amani dreamed of rivers and paintings and a man with sad eyes who made the world feel both more dangerous and more alive. The next 5 days passed in a blur of events and stolen moments. Gallery openings where they held hands and pretended to be engaged while Tae-gun's business associates evaluated her like a puzzle they couldn't solve. Late nights in her apartment where they talked about everything and nothing, learning each other's histories and hopes and fears. Mornings when she woke up to find him already awake, watching her sleep like he was trying to memorize her face. Marcus stopped calling. Amani didn't know what discouragement Jean had employed, but it had been effective. Her ex-boyfriend had vanished from her life as completely as if he'd never existed. The gallery started attracting new clients. Serious collectors who'd seen the photos of her with Tae-gun in the society pages and decided she must be worth paying attention to. Amani hated that it worked that way, that her connection to a wealthy man made her more credible than years of hard work. But she couldn't deny the results. She sold 3 pieces in 1 week. 3 pieces that had been languishing unsold for months. I should feel guilty about this, she told Tae-gun one night. They were in his penthouse, a sleek modern space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake. She'd been spending more time there than at her own apartment, drawn by the comfort of his presence and the safety of his security. Using your name to sell art. Why? He was cooking, something he did with the same precise control he brought to everything else. The kitchen smelled like garlic and ginger. The art is still good. You are still the one who chose it. The artists are still talented. All that has changed is that more people are paying attention. But they're only paying attention because of you. So? He looked over his shoulder at her, amused. Does it matter why they look, as long as they see? The artists are being paid. Their work is being appreciated. You are succeeding. Why does the path matter? Because it feels like cheating. Life is not a game with rules, Amani. There is no cheating. There is only surviving and thriving and choosing which battles matter. He plated the food and brought it to the dining table where she sat. Eat. You are too thin. I'm not too thin. I'm exactly the right amount of thin. You forget to eat when you are stressed. I have noticed. He sat across from her, his eyes soft. I like taking care of you. Let me. It was dangerous, how easy it would be to get used to this. To having someone who noticed when she skipped meals. Who made sure she got home safely. Who looked at her like she was precious. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and frowned. What is wrong? Tae-gun asked immediately. Unknown number. She showed him the screen. Text says, time's running out. Hope you're enjoying your last few days of peace. His expression went cold. Show me. She handed him the phone. He studied the message, his jaw tight, then pulled out his own phone and made a call. He spoke in rapid Korean, his tone clipped and dangerous. When he hung up, he looked at her. Pack a bag. You are staying here until this is resolved. What? No. I have the gallery. I can't just disappear. You can and you will. He stood, pulling her up with him. This is not a request, Amani. Someone knows about you. About us. And they are threatening you to get to me. I will not risk your safety. Who sent it? Zhao. Perhaps. Or one of his people. Or someone else entirely who sees you as a weakness. His hands gripped her shoulders. Please. Do not fight me on this. Move in here where I can protect you properly. Bring what you need from your apartment. I will have people run the gallery for you. I'm not hiding. You are not hiding. You are being smart. There is a difference. He pulled her into his arms, and she could feel the tension vibrating through him. I cannot lose you. Do you understand? I cannot. Amani pressed her face against his chest and tried not to think about the fact that in 7 more days, she was supposed to walk away from this. From him. How was she supposed to leave when he looked at her like losing her would destroy him? Okay, she whispered. I'll stay. The relief in his face was almost painful to see. She moved into his penthouse that night. It felt too fast, too intense, but everything about them had been that way from the beginning. Jean picked up her things from her apartment while 2 other guards stayed with her and Tae-gun. The tension in the penthouse was thick enough to cut. This is my fault, Tae-gun said. He was standing by the windows, looking out at the city. I should have been more careful. Should have kept more distance. Should have protected you better. You can't control everything. I can control this. I can control who has access to you. Who knows about you? He turned to face her, and there was something frightening in his expression. I will find who sent that message. And I will make certain they never threaten you again. What does that mean? It means you do not need to worry. I will handle it. Handle it how? He didn't answer, and Amani felt ice slide down her spine. She'd known what he was. Had known from the beginning that he was dangerous, that his world was built on violence. But knowing it abstractly and confronting it directly were 2 very different things. Don't do something you'll regret, she said quietly. I will not regret protecting you. He crossed to her, framing her face with his hands. You are mine now, Amani. Mine to protect. Mine to keep safe. And I take care of what is mine. The possessiveness should have bothered her. Should have set off all her feminist alarm bells about being owned and controlled. But the way he said it, the fierce protectiveness in his eyes, made her feel safe instead of trapped. I'm not yours, she said, but there was no heat behind it. We have an agreement. 2 weeks. 6 more days. His thumb stroked her cheekbone. And I am not letting you go when they end. You know that, yes? You know I will do whatever it takes to keep you. Even if I want to leave? You do not want to leave. You want to be safe and responsible and protect yourself from being hurt. But you do not want to leave. He kissed her, slow and deep. Stay. Choose me. Choose this. We will figure out the rest. Amani wanted to argue. Wanted to point out all the reasons why this was impossible. But she was tired of fighting. Tired of being afraid. So instead, she kissed him back and let herself believe, just for tonight, that wanting something was enough to make it real. The next 2 days were tense. Tae-gun barely left the penthouse, working from his home office while his people tracked down the source of the threat. Amani tried to work on gallery business remotely, but it was hard to focus knowing that someone out there wanted to hurt her just to get to him. On the 3rd day, Tae-gun came into the living room where she was curled up on the couch with a book she wasn't really reading. It was Zhao, he said without preamble. He was trying to scare you. To make me look weak in front of the other families. What did you do? I made it clear that touching you would have consequences. He has agreed to back off. His expression was neutral, but there was something dark in his eyes. You are safe now. Amani didn't ask what consequences meant. Didn't want to know. How many more days, she asked instead. 4. You are very good at counting. I'm very good at knowing when something is about to end. She set the book aside. What happens after? When the 2 weeks are up? I told you. You stay. And if I don't? His jaw tightened. Then I will let you go. Because I promised I would not force you. But I will not make it easy. I will fight for you, Amani. With everything I have. Why? The word burst out of her, frustrated and confused. Why me? You could have anyone. Someone from your world who understands it. Someone who wouldn't complicate everything. Why are you fighting so hard for someone you met by accident? Because there are no accidents. He sat beside her, pulling her into his lap so she had no choice but to look at him. Because you sent me that photograph and it changed something. Because you walked into my life and made me want to be different. Because when I am with you, I can breathe. Because you look at me and see a man instead of a monster. His hands framed her face. Because I am falling in love with you and I do not know how to stop. Amani's breath caught. Don't say that. Why not? It is true. Because it makes this harder. Because if you love me, then leaving becomes impossible. And I can't stay, Tae-gun. I can't live in your world. I can't spend my life being protected and threatened and wondering if today is the day someone decides to hurt me to get to you. Then I will leave my world. He said it simply, like it was obvious. I will walk away. Find something else. Something clean. We can go anywhere. Start over somewhere safe. You said that would get people killed. That walking away meant showing weakness. I do not care. His eyes were fierce. I would burn my empire to the ground if it meant keeping you. I would walk away from everything. I would become no one. Just let me keep you. Amani felt tears sliding down her face. You can't ask me to let you do that. To destroy your life for me. You are not letting me do anything. I am choosing this. I am choosing you. He kissed her tears away. Say yes. Say you will stay. Say we can figure this out together. She wanted to. God, she wanted to so badly. But she'd watched her father die of a broken heart when her mother left him. She knew what it looked like when someone destroyed themselves for love. And she couldn't do that to Tae-gun. Couldn't let him burn his world down for someone he'd known for less than 2 weeks. Ask me again, she said finally. When the 2 weeks are up. When we've had time to think clearly. If you still want this, if you still think I'm worth it, ask me again. And you will say yes? I don't know. She pressed her forehead to his. But I promise I'll tell you the truth. Whatever it is. He nodded, but she could see the fear in his eyes. The knowledge that when he asked, she might choose safety over love. Might choose herself over them. The last 4 days passed too quickly. They attended one final event, a charity gala where they danced and smiled and pretended everything was fine. Amani met more of Tae-gun's associates, learned more names and faces and dangerous secrets. She saw the way people looked at them now, with speculation and calculation. The way they assessed what her presence meant for the balance of power. On their last night together, Tae-gun took her to the gallery. Her gallery. After hours, just the two of them. He'd arranged for flowers to be delivered, orchids and roses in every color. They filled the space with fragrance and beauty. What is this? She asked, turning in a slow circle. A reminder. He came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. Of what we built together. Of what we could have. Tae-gun. I know. Tomorrow is the last day. Tomorrow you get to choose. He turned her in his arms to face him. But tonight is still ours. Let me have tonight. They made love there, surrounded by art and flowers and everything that mattered to her. It was slow and sweet and desperate, both of them trying to memorize every touch, every sound. Trying to make it last. After, they lay tangled together on the floor, her head on his chest. I have something for you, he said. He reached into his jacket, discarded somewhere nearby, and pulled out an envelope. Open it. Inside was a deed. She stared at it, not understanding. The building, he said quietly. I bought it. The gallery and your apartment and the bubble tea shop next door. It is yours now. No rent. No landlord. Just yours. I can't accept this. You can. You will. He stroked her hair. Whatever you choose tomorrow, whatever happens between us, this is yours. Your dream. I want you to have it. Amani was crying again. This is too much. It is not nearly enough. He kissed her forehead. You deserve everything, Amani Jackson. I hope someday you believe that. They stayed there until dawn, holding each other and not talking about what came next. The last day arrived cold and gray. Amani stood in Tae-gun's penthouse, staring out at the lake and trying to figure out what the hell she was going to do. The 2 weeks were over. She could walk away. Take the building he'd given her, the connections she'd made, the financial security she'd been desperate for. She could go back to her life and pretend these 2 weeks had been just business. Or she could stay. Choose him. Choose this dangerous, impossible love that had bloomed in the space between pretend and real. Tae-gun found her there, already dressed in one of his suits. He looked tired. Like he hadn't slept. So, he said, "It is time." "Yeah." She turned to face him. "It is. Have you decided?" Amani took a deep breath. "I can't let you leave your world. I can't let you destroy everything you've built just to keep me safe." His face went blank. "I see. But I can't leave you either." She moved toward him, her heart pounding. "So we're going to have to figure out a third option. Something that doesn't involve you burning down your empire or me spending my life terrified." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying yes. I'm saying I'll stay. But on my terms." She gripped his lapels. "You keep doing what you do, but you let me have my own life. The gallery is mine. My space. You don't bring your business there. You don't let it touch what I've built. And I need honesty. If something's happening, if I'm in danger, you tell me. No more secrets. No more protecting me by keeping me in the dark." "Those are your terms?" "Those are my terms." A slow smile spread across his face. "You are going to be very difficult to be in love with. Probably. You still want me anyway. More than anything." He kissed her, and it felt like a promise. Like a beginning. "We will figure this out. Together." Together, she agreed. It wouldn't be easy. Amani knew that. Loving Kang Tae-gun, being part of his world while trying to maintain her own, it would be the hardest thing she'd ever done. There would be threats and dangers and moments when she'd question whether this was worth it. But standing there in his arms, looking at the man who'd walked into her life because of a drunk text sent to the wrong number, she thought maybe it was. Maybe some things were worth the risk. Worth the fear. Worth choosing even when the smart thing would be to walk away. "I love you," she said. "I'm probably insane. But I love you. I love you too." He rested his forehead against hers. "Thank you for not being sensible. Thank you for showing up that morning. For seeing an invitation instead of a mistake. It was never a mistake." He smiled. "It was fate. I told you, I believe in opportunities." She laughed, and it felt like releasing something she'd been holding tight for too long. "You're ridiculous. I am yours. It is the same thing." 3 months later, Amani stood in her gallery, watching as people filled the space for her biggest opening yet. Young Korean artists she'd connected with through Tae-gun's introductions, their work displayed alongside her Chicago artists. A collaboration between worlds that shouldn't have worked but somehow did. Tae-gun stood in the corner, watching her with that soft expression he got when he thought she wasn't looking. The one that made her feel precious. Chosen. Loved. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, and her heart jumped before she read it. "Just wanted to say the emerald lace was a good look for you. But I like the current look even better. Marcus." She laughed and deleted the message. Some things weren't worth responding to. Some mistakes weren't worth remembering. She looked at the ring on her finger. Not the 2-carat diamond from their fake engagement, which she'd tried to return and Tae-gun had refused to take back. A different ring. Simpler. An emerald surrounded by small diamonds. The stone was the exact color of the lace set she'd been wearing in that photo. The one that had started everything. Tae-gun had given it to her last month, on bended knee in the middle of her gallery after hours. A real proposal this time. A real promise. She'd said yes without hesitation. Maya Thompson, the artist whose work Amani had championed, came up to her with tears in her eyes. 3 pieces sold already. "I can't believe it." "Believe it," Amani said, hugging her. "You're talented. You deserve this." As Maya walked away, Tae-gun appeared at her side. "Happy?" "Very. Good." He kissed her temple. "You have made something beautiful here. Your parents would be proud." Amani leaned against him, watching her gallery full of art and people and possibility. I think they would be. Even if they'd think I was crazy for how I got here. Are you? Crazy? Absolutely. She turned to kiss him properly, not caring who saw. But crazy seems to work for us. It does. He held her close, and for a moment the gallery fell away. The people, the art, the whole world. Just the two of them. Thank you for sending that text. Thank you for showing up. Always, he promised. I will always show up for you. And he did. Through everything that came after. Through the dangers of his world and the challenges of hers. Through the moments when loving each other felt impossible and the moments when it felt inevitable. Through all of it, he showed up. And so did she. Because that's what you do when you find something worth keeping. You fight for it. You choose it. You show up. Even if it all started with a drunk text sent to the wrong number by mistake.